to my guest, Carol Pardue, who is a woman's health advocate. And she's been out here a long time. And I know, I can't say how old, but we've been there a long time. And then we have Sharon Russell, who is an activist, who's ready to roll with some things. But, while we were talking, I know a lot of times laws are what I call preventive kinds of things. They're good and bad. And you have to determine what's the good part. And sometimes they rely on what people say in the community and what's going on. So, Carol, I know that you have spent a lot of time as an activist. What are some of the things that we need to look for when people are talking about the politics of things?
When we're talking about the politics of things, one of the problems that we usually as women have is that we're so involved in things, we don't look beyond the title. If it says healthy friends, then we say, oh, that's a good thing. If it says abortion, some of us say that's a bad thing, some of us say that's a necessary thing. So we don't look beyond, and we need to, for our own self-preservation. The Department of Health Reorganization bill, there's a great article in the Tallahassee Democrat today about how I looked at that. I didn't even read the bill, and that's a bill I would have read 1,000 times word by word. But I read the first thing that says, we want to streamline paperwork, and then I didn't read down there where it says, but the way we're going to get to it is we're going to eliminate funding for half of family planning, and we're going to do these things. So we've got to read beyond the headline. I think one of the biggest bills right now that's going to come as a shock to the women in Georgia, they're already offended because it's called the Women as Livestock Bill.
Oh,
in a bill that was supposed to be abortion and fetal pain, which makes people very nervous, it segued off of that into something much more scary for women. They read that and they didn't want to talk about fetal pain. None of us want to talk about abortion. But in this bill, this legislator has said that if I am pregnant and after 20 weeks I find out that my baby is dead inside me, I have to continue that pregnancy.
Oh, now that doesn't make good medical sense.
No, it does not make good medical sense. And the reason he gave is that if his cows and pigs have to carry fetuses to term, then women should too.
Oh, wow. How do we have a big eraser so we can erase that person?
We have our voting rights, and the women in Georgia better be doing it because it is a very bad law. He only gave 2 exceptions for that. So that's what we have to do in our community. We have to at least find somebody at our church who says, you know, I work at the Capitol. Well, would you read this for me and tell me what I need to know? We don't all have to do it. We have to have a point person who will tell us that we're losing something in something that doesn't look like it should hurt us at all.
And it's a joke probably to somebody. If you were standing somewhere and say that to me, I would think it's a ha-ha. What are you talking about? What are you trying to convince me of or what to do? And I know there always has to be somebody in the background telling us the right and wrong, how it will affect us. And see, that's the whole thing with what we're doing now. That's why we have to have this march, because we need to have persons understand, not just the women, but the men in our lives. They have to understand, well, what are we about? And I think that's the best way. In fact, that's the way I think.
And we have, when there's a controversial issue that we don't want to talk about, we need to go to our friends who disagree and say, can you tell me, is there something I need to know? Not the part we disagree about, but is there something in this bill that will hurt us before I get mad at you just over the big issue? What is there that's really going to hurt us in there?
And at the rally, that's what we're going to have. We're going to have subject matter experts on voting, on women's rights, on health issues, so that you can see how legislation is going to impact you personally. And I know we don't have time to save the world, but if you come, I believe that you will be educated on how it will impact you personally.
That's important.
And that is very important. Yeah. And this whole thing started with Sandra Fluke, who is a law student at Georgetown University, and she was supposed to testify in front of Congress, and she didn't. And of course, white radio show hosts ended up saying some stuff that was very disparaging, and women just had to step in it's not just her. As a young, educated woman, what you're saying affects all of us. And from that moment on, we're now having rallies in 50 states.
I commend you for doing that, because you have to have a starting point.
Yes.
People need to understand, well, how does this affect me? Even just a 2 or 3 words put somewhere and you don't understand what it means, but it reflects on those of us who interpret the law to make sure it works for everybody.
Right.
So I'm glad this rally is coming out.
And-
We don't even have 2 hours to get this over.
2 hours, but it's gonna be an energetic, high-powered 2 hours. You're gonna get your money's worth, and it's free.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, let's look at something else too, because everybody talks about who pays for this. And I'm always looking at the tax structure. And once you retire, you know you have X amount of dollars coming in, and you may not be able to use it the way you want to. But the tax structures now are saying we don't have enough money to pay. You mentioned something about the money. Who's going to pay for it? If I know somebody that needs to have some corrective things done for them to make them healthy, or to keep them healthy, that's the best word, then what do? How do we change the structure on how our dollars are used and where they're used, that kind of thing?
Well, I don't think it will be fast coming. I would like to say I have a real, because I'm a person and I know exactly what tax I should be paying for. But I think in the reality base of it, but let's look at it like this. I have a friend, she's worked for 10 years for a good company in this city. They've made sure that they've never given her benefits. They've never made her a full employee. So she couldn't even buy into their plan. She has diabetes. She spent 10 days in the hospital. Who's paying for that? You and I are paying for that through our increased premiums and through that. Now, had she been allowed to buy into their plan, she would have sought health care sooner because she could have paid the copays, but she couldn't pay the office visits herself. So now she has a $100,000 bill in the hospital that either the House, either the legislature is going to have to absorb, or we're going to have to do through our premiums. So the fact that there are people fighting the Affordable Health Care Act, which would say we all pay into a system. When we're healthy, we pay in, so when we're sick, it's there. I don't understand people fighting that, because, people are standing there saying we don't want to pay for mandatory insurance, but we paid $17 million to one of our hospitals in Florida for uncompensated care. That's your tax dollar. It came out of the Florida budget for one hospital. So we are paying for it. We're not paying for prevention, but we're giving money to the hospital in the end for them not. So why aren't we having everyone buy into a cost-affordable plan?
And the other part of it, I'd like to know who evaluates these systems. On the other side of the paper, you're talking about somebody going into a caregiving place or a health place, and they can't get what they want to make themselves healthy. So we're giving something to somebody, we don't even know what they're doing with the money.
That's correct.
I'll tell you, I've heard it, and sometimes when I'm just standing in line in places, I'm listening all the time, my wheel keeps going. I said, well, if I'm giving this, why can't she do this? Why can't this happen? And I raised the issue a lot. My husband tells me to keep quiet. I said, no.
Don't keep quiet. And we're gonna pay for it one way or the other.
Right.
And I believe that if we get people in and we're preventing catastrophic illnesses, it is going to be better for us as a community and as a country. And it doesn't even sound reasonable to me for people going in and trying to have preventative health care, or everything is done in the emergency room when it could be done at a doctor's office. So either way, we're paying. We can pay for preventative care, or we can pay for these people when they have developed a catastrophic illness.
And we can make it affordable. Health departments have done a sliding scale for years. To take a public health department like the Department of Organization bill that Governor Scott has the option to veto, and to take that away from counties where it's worked, especially small counties, where people come in, they pay $5 or $10 as a copay, and the state does preventive care. The number of people and the number of wide outbreak of public health in small communities, especially where they have no hospitals and they have limited doctors, it's been tremendous. It'll be a catastrophic loss when we start losing public health dollars.
Well, I think, this is my own point of view, we need shake the pom-pom there, because we're gonna wait till you guys do this, you know, have a victory here. But we do have to mind our business and teach our dollar sense. This is an old adage that we had years ago, that you keep pumping something into it, and it doesn't get any better, it doesn't shrink. The people that you care for, it keeps going up. But I'm glad that we're doing this rally, so we're going to be able to confront what's really out there and do what we're supposed to do to fix the system.
And let's look at the visual for politicians who aren't looking at their constituents correctly. You can't show prevention on a campaign brochure.
Right.
You can show a fix. You can show a broken leg and a cast. You can't show preventing that leg from breaking.
Well, I think that's the best way to go out with this show, because we only have a minute left. But I think that we have to, it's really teaching our dollar sense and making sure that what's out there is something that's usable. I mean, don't send me over there to Dr. So-and-so and he just wants to make $1 off of me. Send me over there so he can fix me. But ladies, I really, really have appreciated this. I'm glad we had a chance to use our pom-pom. But there's so much more that we can talk about, and we'll see you on April
28th.
Where?
At the steps of the old Capitol.
And what time?
From 12 until 2 p.m. And please go online to unitewomen.org.
Thank you so much.
Thank
This
you.
has been my pleasure. Thank you for listening to News and Views from around